I'm Jeff St. James, host of Ask a Brother podcast, and you're watching The Ladies Table. Every week, women from different backgrounds, different experiences, and different walks of life come together for an honest conversation. Some perspectives will challenge you.
Trying to call straight black men to the table about masculinity when yours is compromised.
Some will make you laugh.
Well, why would a man want a woman that her claim to fame is know how to fight? He don't want to fight you.
Come on now.
Some might change the way you think.
Life is about trade-offs. There's only two options. If you choose one way, you're probably not going to get the other way.
This is The Ladies Table.
Started a new tradition that the prom is the peak of black love and it has to be celebrated like it's a wedding. Is that where we've gone? Take my parents' generation. Everybody in the family go back to look at the wedding pictures. Oh, that's what Auntie so-and-so looked like when blah, blah. Now, I think this generation is going to be looking back at prom pictures the way previous generations look back at wedding pictures. And for me, this is sad. What you celebrate does matter. What are we really celebrating here? These kids may never even speak to each other after tonight. This isn't some life partner, and I hope that this young man doesn't impregnate my daughter or give her an STD tonight.
What happens before the dance is getting bigger. No, bigger. Way bigger. Prom send-offs are becoming celebrations of their very own.
Usually, we're busting out the scenes with baby showers, bridal showers, and weddings. But do you know the hottest event of the season right now? Prom.
Families renting venues.
Yeah.
Hiring fashion designers.
One senior year, we found a designer, and we just started working with him, and then he started creating my dress.
I definitely feel like it could come up a little bit more.
Big hitter like
Booking cars. Live music. Building full productions before their kids ever step foot inside prom. And while some keep it simple, others are shelling out thousands, sometimes tens of thousands.
This is an accomplishment. She deserves this, and that's why.
A school bus. A simple, regular school bus. No Lamborghini, no Bentley, no McLaren, no fake rich competition. Just kids on a yellow school bus laughing, dressed nice, creating memories, and probably having the time of their lives. And honestly, this is the part of the conversation the black and brown communities hate to have.
At the graduation walk, this Louisiana student turned into a graduation groove.
After receiving her high school diploma, Amiria Marquis broke into a joyful dance across the stage. There she goes. Whoa! Wow. She has reason to celebrate. I mean, she's entering college as a junior. Now, she is dancing into her next chapter.
Well, look who is in this neighborhood. Now, who do you want as your next door neighbor? Okay? Now, before y'all get mad, let me ask you a question. When people buy homes, they're not just buying a house, right? They're buying a neighborhood. Or they're just buying a school district. They're buying a community. So, if you're a parent, all right, looking for the best educational outcomes for your child, would you actively choose a school where this is the culture? Okay, you see, this conversation isn't really just about graduation, because today's students becomes tomorrow's neighbors, employees, business owners, and community leaders. Schools help shape communities. Communities shape the school.
Well, welcome everybody that's currently watching to another episode of The Ladies Table. I'm your host, Jeff St. James, and we have Miss Maggie the Substitute, Anita P. Stoudemire, and Crimson Cure here as well. So ladies, look at Maggie's face. Black prom and graduation is trending again. And a lot of people have been DMing, commenting, and saying that they wanted to hear specifically from the ladies on this panel about what it is that's going on and how the hell we even got here. So that was a lot. What's your initial thoughts?
Someone in the comments said they're considering homeschooling. And I know a lot of people in our community, at least where I live, that are in fact doing that, because the children in public school are a really bad influence, and they don't want that seeping into their children. When I was coming up, now I'm a Gen Xer, I'm gonna tell on myself, but when I was coming up, it was called home training, right? That's what it was called, home training. And the number one thing that my parents and my grandparents instilled in me was pride for our family name. They always told me, don't you leave this house and embarrass our family and embarrass our name. That was deeply instilled in me. I instilled it in my children because they are connected to me. But those things just don't, I don't know. That's just not a thing anymore. It doesn't seem like it. So I don't know what to make of what's happening right now. It's so far away from my graduation. Now that was like 40 years ago. It's 40 years ago, but so far away we have gotten. I just want to know how we got here.
What about y'all? Go ahead, Maggie or Crimson.
I don't, I have several thoughts. Some of them harsh, others not so harsh. I have more of an issue with the prom spending and the celebration of that than probably anything else. I have more of an issue with that and all that entails than the dance and celebrations. As for the dance and celebrations at graduation, I think that, of course, you don't want to make a spectacle of yourself while doing that. Do I think that none of our children should ever dance at a graduation? I don't know about that. I don't know that I want to say every expression of happiness or joy or is bad when we do it, or it's automatically ratchet when we do it. Because I've seen other ethnicities from the diaspora go across that stage and hit their cultural dance as soon as they get their diploma. Nobody says anything about that because that's not seen as bad or ratchet or wrong. Again, like I said, do you want to make a spectacle of it where that becomes a distraction from the other students who also want to go across the stage? The ceremony's not over and you're in the back making a whole nother deal because you got your diploma. I don't agree with that. I think that that's taking things too far, because there's a time and a place, right? If I can't celebrate at my graduation, where can I celebrate? But what is the celebration? And how far do we take that celebration? Where's the line between I celebrated a little bit and got my diploma and went and sat down, or did I make a negative spectacle out of myself, doing too much at the graduation or whatever? And like I said, I think I have a stronger opinion about the money spent and the focus on prom than I do the graduation so-called celebrations. As for the fight, I don't take that on as this is just what Black people do. That was them. Because I think that was that boy and his father fighting because his daddy told him not to come to his brother's graduation and he came anyways. So I think that's how that particular fight even started. But before we had cell phones, I mean, you get the most ratchet of the ratchet that might fight at a graduation or something like that. But that wasn't something that I experienced in my graduations. My 8th grade graduation wasn't like that, and it was an all-black school. You know what I'm saying? My high school graduation wasn't like that, and it was a mixed school. You know, so we didn't fight. The black people didn't fight. You know, we didn't make, none of the black people at that ceremony did anything out of the ordinary other than holler and scream when their child went across the stage, and then that was it. So I may have some stronger thoughts later, but my sticking point is that prom.
And Maggie, real quick before you hop in, Eugene, thank you for the $5. He writes, graduation is supposed to be a majestic event, like a king anointing a knight. When I graduated, I was just excited to be a part of the majesty. Yeah, Maggie, you can come on, hop on in. And everybody that's currently watching, if you haven't done so, please make sure that you are a subscriber. And thank you, Eugene, for the $5. To everyone that you see on the screen. And feel free to share this with at least 1, 2, or even 3 more people. Maggie, what about you?
There's a time and a place for everything. I agree with Eugene. I agree with, there's another comment from Tokyo who said you can dance at the after party. For me, it is about not being able to read the room and thinking that all the time the spotlight needs to be on me. Like Miss Crimson said, I think that's very disrespectful to the other graduates, to their families. Everybody's listening for their loved one's name to be called, but now all heads are turned because you're over here doing a full-on routine, backflip and all, because you just can't not have everybody pay attention to you. One of the clips that you showed when she was dancing, I don't know if it was this one or one of the other ones, if you look, there was 3 men, I think maybe they were in security or some type of post, and they were just standing there looking at this. And that's what I mean when I say we have to be able to read the room. I agree with Mr. Eugene, you know, and this one hits close to home. I just had a high school graduate this year and one last year. And I remember receiving the code of conduct from the school. They're actually sending it home to parents. And I was shocked because, you know, like Miss Anita, I'm also a Gen Xer, so it's been a long time since I've been at a graduation, and we just knew what was acceptable. This didn't need to be spelled out because we had home training. And there was that foolishness where I don't know if it was the mother or the grandmother in a very short skirt and a wig and maybe one shoe on and the other show off. It's not enough that your kid is having an accomplishment, but not only do you want the attention on him, you want the attention on you, running up and down the hall like a crazy person. So now everybody who's there, who's traveled for miles, grandparents, babies, to celebrate their loved one. Now we have to look at this spectacle. It's foolishness, and I'm sick of it. And I agree with Ms. Crimson. I also graduated from HBCU. This was not the case. This is not us. This is not me. This does not represent us. And if we wonder how we got here, it's because this is the parenting now. This is what happens when we let people get away with anything and we don't check it the first time. This is what happens when men don't assume their place and say, we're not having this. This is what happens.
I'm gonna say a couple things that in reference to what I've been seeing and also what some of you ladies have said on my end. The first of which is, and I think you and Crimson kind of alluded to it, the celebration factor as a starting point. My initial issue with when and how do we celebrate is you want it to be, in my mind, a celebration where you don't take away the opportunity for someone else to hear their child's voice called on stage. As a simple baseline. There's something I'm going to share pretty soon of a clip that shows that there is a learned and socialized defiance that's been happening, where this is going way past men and women and who's allowed to lead in this community. when you have too many people who can't be told nothing and you get them in an environment like this, I think we're going to see this continue to get worse and worse until more and more principals actually start cracking down. And Crimson, you're right that there are other groups that do other. I saw Island Pacific, you know, they were doing their version of it together in a more unison approach. And I'm sure that there are other groups that's doing different things. My initial concern is the addiction to attention. The addiction to attention is what this is about. It's worsened because of social media. I'm not a Gen Xer. I'm a up there millennial at this point. And I graduated 20 years ago. And I promise you, nothing like this was on anybody's radar in 2007 when I graduated high school. It wasn't the case when I graduated college. Nobody was doing anything insane. I do think having a generation that's been raised on cell phones, been raised on social media, Facebook effectively got popular while I was in high school. Before that, you know, social media was still very new. You had MySpace and other stuff. I think that when we're seeing the marrying of high levels of narcissism with the advent of social media, and both of those things being unchecked, unregulated, you're going to get these moments. You're going to get these moments when they're trying to get in the spotlight. They're trying to make it about them. And again, you could dance before the ceremony. You could dance at the end of the ceremony when everybody decides they want to party and have a good time then and there. But choosing to do it while the ceremony is still going on and other people are being called. I had one I didn't even play of a guy trying to do the backflip on the stage and fell and just laid there for about 20 seconds. Like, this is actually, I'm gonna find it, won't pull it up, but when I'm gonna play this Learn Defiance thing first, and I'm gonna see if I can find it and see what y'all think.
Ford, Frederick. Zakai, Laurie, Keyshawn, Thor.
I'm gonna scream.
Ashley Taylor Jackson.
Arini and Patel. Claire Ann Plaza. Addison Mackenzie Bullock. Jacob.
We love you, Jacob!
Congratulations, Jacob. Your sister's level.
We thought we was good, and then they had kicked us. She said, y'all have to leave. Okay. We was out anyway. Look, we was out anyway. Let us know.
So my initial point is, when I say that this is learned defiance, what I'm basically saying is they don't think that they're wrong. This is why when their kids are doing it, you're even seeing adults now doing crazy. It's one thing to see a high schooler doing something, doing flips and doing extra stuff. Now parents and adults are engaging in the behavior as well. So I think that the initial point is, I don't think that they think taking the attention away from everybody else and who's being called on stage, I don't think they see anything actually wrong with it. When I didn't even play the clip with the young lady that was doing the splits, I'm trying to be respectful. Shorty was doing splits on stage and saying, I told everybody I knew I was going to do it. And then afterwards, the mother said, she's fully covered. What's the problem? Am I making this up? Crimson, did you?
Here's the thing. The reason why I don't have a super strong, it's foolishness, of course. The dancing and acting a fool at the graduation, right? It's foolishness, of course. But I don't completely blame them kids. They young. I blame how they were raised. That's what I blame. All that gentle parenting we ain't going to do, and everything they learned at a young age, that everything was a negotiation, that every standard could be negotiated,
that rules were bendable, breakable even. Boundaries were flexible. You don't have to if you don't want to, if it doesn't feel a certain kind of way. So now all of a sudden we expect a 17 or 18-year-old to put in their mind something that was never instilled in them, to have all of this rigid decorum. There's no rigidity in the way in which they're raised. And we told them as a society and as a household, as various households, that they could do, well, you don't have. And once you tell a child they don't necessarily have to all the time, they don't see authority as a hard stop. They see it as, I can negotiate with that. I can, it's flexible. Yeah, okay, you gave me the rules, but if I can do it like this, then maybe it won't be so bad if I do it. So this is why I don't have that strong of an opinion on the child themselves, because they're going to do what was allowed. We didn't do it because we wasn't allowed to do it. Right. That's why we didn't do it. Not because we had so much more internal decorum. We knew it was going to be a problem. That's what we knew. We knew if you get up on that stage and you act a fool, you're going to have to deal with me. That's what we knew. We didn't have all of this extra maturity at 16, 17, 18 years old. We had a problem in the stands is what we had.
You're right. That's actually, you know what? That's actually 100% right. And I'm like, this is, hold on, here it is. Here it is.
There's a split decision on if this move went way too far.
Well, too much. That's too much. See how long the dress and everything is? She covered.
Meet Tyvion Campbell.
I will be attending Georgia State University this fall.
She says she'd been telling friends, family, and even classmates for weeks that for graduation at Chicago Tech Academy High School, her exit was going to be memorable.
Yes, I gave many warnings. I told my friends, family, and I told my peers, my teachers, I said I'm going to do a split on stage, but no one took me serious. And when I did it, everyone was shocked.
She followed through. After walking across the stage at the Harold Washington Cultural Center, Campbell waved to the crowd, dropped it into a split with a dance move, popped back up to accept her diploma, except it never came.
I did a pretty princess wave, did my split, got back up, and I tried to reach for my diploma, and I didn't get it. And I was confused at first. I thought they mixed up my name.
Video of the moment shows Campbell looking back towards school officials as the audience cheered.
The principal telling her, now don't give her nothing. She looked around her. Don't give her nothing. Don't give her.
So she didn't
make her walk off. No, she didn't hand it to her.
Tyvion McVeigh.
The reaction from the crowd was loud. Campbell says the only person who took issue with the celebration were school leaders.
My principal, Ms. Shackelford, she told me I need to think of a way to make up for what I've done. And this was supposed to be a celebratory moment, and I made it about myself.
The 18-year-old says she was escorted out of the ceremony and still has not received her diploma. She also says she never saw any written rule prohibiting dances or celebrations during the commencement.
We did receive rules, but the rules had nothing to do with what you can and cannot do while you walk across the stage.
She wasn't interested in them rules. It didn't matter what the rules said. As Crimson said, if they're not raised to respect them anyway. What's worse, and Crimson, now that you gave me that lens, look at who defended it. Who was looking at a cell phone saying, look, she's fully covered?
The mama was doing it. Here's the thing. Because it's twofold for me with this situation. I don't agree that the young girl should have done that. I don't care who she told that she was going to do a split, because notice the language. She said she told them she was going to do it, not ask. She didn't ask permission to do certain things. She just she notified them. Again, this is a part of the raising that's been going on, and not just single mother households.
Nope.
But this is just how kids get raised now. That everything can be negotiated, like I said. Now, they didn't give her diploma on the stage. So my question is, how long should she go without it as a punishment?
I'll say this, and I want to know from Maggie and
Should
Anita
she
what
go
your-
without it as a punishment? Should they withhold her diploma after she completed 4 years? And if so, how long do they keep it?
I'm going to say this. Whatever the answer is, do we want it to be something that'll convince high school students to actually reconsider some of the things they're doing? I think there is an issue with, it's the last day of school, it's the last time I got to see y'all, I can do and say what I want.
Yep.
Societies that work are ones that adjust to current societal issues, not what we've always historically allowed or done, whatever. No, what is the current issue? This wasn't an issue when y'all were graduating schools. This wasn't an issue when I was either. It is an issue now. And if you want to create a situation where people can legitimately, including students and their parents, are made aware we're not an institution that's going to allow this. We're not going to think that you're setting the precedent for future classes to do this as well. You may be on the chopping block. And I think that whatever the agreement is of what they decide, it could be 6 months for all I care. My view is whatever the consequence, if you're even going to have one, if you don't want this to continue, I think it has to be severe enough for people to actually really, if I got to wait a month to get my diploma, it's worth it if I'm planning on doing this. If I'm planning on going to school, she knew what school she was going to and all this other stuff. But if she doesn't have what she needs to go, you might got to wait to the next semester to start full-fledged academic adulthood. And that may be the actual consequence. Because right now, I think social media, the internet, they're already getting rewarded in one area. And like you said, the reinforcement or lack thereof from the parents, I think we're in dangerous territory where if schools and principals, now I did see one principal shut down graduation completely, ended it early. I didn't download it, but that brother, he said, I told y'all, go ahead to the parking lot. And that was it. And I don't know. I don't know if more and more parents need to experience that to realize like, you better not be the reason why graduation ends. Because right now it's a free for all, it seemed like. Well, Anita and Maggie, what y'all think?
That is a good question, right? Because technically, if she's completed all of her classes, all of her schoolwork or credits or whatever, I mean, them withholding the physical diploma, I'm not sure necessarily what that's going to do. Could they withhold her transcripts? Could they fine her? Could they require some sort of community service? I mean, there are lots of things. But I do think that they should learn from this, right? We shouldn't have a repeat of this going forward. I think the schools should learn. Sometimes there's a learning curve. And I think the administration should learn and they should set some stronger, stringent things in place so that this doesn't happen again. Because to make up some sort of consequence on the fly, I mean, I could see that going badly. But to say from here forward, to print something, to put something in writing, and let something be in writing. Okay, this is what's going to happen if you do this. Okay, then, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's unfortunate. But yeah, I think that's going to be a tough one to hold.
This happened.
Is it? Okay, to hold these people accountable. That's going to be a tough one. But I do think they can learn moving forward.
I'm going to say in my high school in Jersey, there were things we could do during a certain time window, our junior and senior years, which would have warranted us losing the ability to go on our senior trip. And that was just agreed upon. Everybody knew it. And it was and I literally knew students that got in trouble during the run up leading to the 6 months prior leading up to senior trip. If you got in trouble for any infractions, you were liable to be able to, the consequence was you're not going on a senior trip. In fact, I got into an altercation and I was this close from the assistant principal being like, you're not going now. It really happened. And it was nothing that we all didn't know in advance. And I agree with you. I don't know what the legal ramifications are when it comes to withholding transcripts and diplomas for a certain amount of time outside of like past a month. But I do think schools may legitimately need to reevaluate students and parents and even in terms of what they're signing up and what they're signing when it comes to, if you're going to be a student at this institution, these are the expectations and these are the consequences. I think schools they didn't have to think about this before. I now think they do. And Maggie, you can come in real quick right after this. BLJ81, thank you for the $10. It's not about the dress. It is about the behavior in the dress. She never mentioned she was a cheerleader. So I'm not sure that would have mattered personally, based on what she did. But so this child saw someone do a split somewhere, movies, TV, TikTok, grown women, etc. Appreciate you, bro, for the $10 for sure. Listen, she got it from somewhere. We definitely know that. Slim, thank you for the $5. This shows me a lack of tact, discretion, discipline, delayed gratification, and impulse control, which seems to be prevalent among too many kids and for moms. Appreciate you, Slim, for the $5. High Vibe, thank you for the $5. We now have 3 generations of people who can't be reined in. Parents, grandparents are living vicariously through their children. Ooh, we gonna get to maybe also additional factors of how we got here. And then as well as Brandon, Todd, thank you for the $6.99. No strong feelings on high school grad. I do feel different about college, university. Children who've made it through lockdown schooling, however, have my grace. I think this is part of the problem. I think there's a certain, again, I think this is part of the problem of when you don't have a standard for celebration, anything can go. Anything can go. This is why the girl seemed confused when she's turning around saying, "Where's my diploma?" after a split. Because the same kid, the other kid that could do a flip, you got people in the crowd that can run around and do all types of stuff. So what's me doing a split? Why is that so bizarre? Like, and I actually truly believe her when she's looking and being like, it's not against the rules. What's the big deal? You know, it took 2 seconds. Where's my diploma? Like, I really, and I think that people who maybe are struggling with brand, or at least people who have Brandon's perspective, this is probably why it's happening even more now. Because I do think what Crimson said is right. More parents are also in agreement, apparently, or at least in certain areas. And then last but not least, Tokyo Traveler, thank you for the $5. Cancel graduation and send the diplomas in the mail for 3 years for schools where this sort of thing happened, the previous graduation. This is the problem. You're punishing future kids for current graduates' behavior. I have heard this before, but I will say this. Don't think this is off the table. Don't think that schools and institutions that do not want to become a mockery, if fights keep happening at prom and graduation, what you think is going to happen? If crazy, inappropriate stuff keeps happening at venues and sanctioned events, what do you usually think is going to end up happening? Either the bar for students being allowed to even come is going to get higher, or the consequences. I think this is unreasonable, but I'm not seeing the direction of where our students are heading into. I'm not convinced that something like this may not be off the table. There may be schools that legitimately will be done with it. They may just say it's not even an option anymore. I don't know. They may send a link to parents and families and record it or stream it, and there's no live audience other than the actual graduates. I'm telling you this, don't be shocked. Once COVID happened, I think I saw a lot of noticeable shifts in how they were doing schooling. And again, they were doing graduations during that time too. People must have forgot about, just because school was, you had the lockdown didn't mean that they didn't have their digital versions of it. And then last but not least, Tristan Smith. Remember all those ignorant kids and class clowns that we sat in class with 20, 30 years ago? They all procreated and were watching their parenting skills live on social media. There's definitely some of that. I definitely think there may be more going on outside of all their parents are just, ignorant and don't do this or don't do that. I think there's a little bit more going on with this particular conversation of how it is that we got here. And then Slim, again, the split converted the high school into a strip club. Thank you, Slim, for the $2. Maggie, what you think before we get into why it is that we think this is happening?
I think it's disgusting, and I think we should make an example out of her. And I may get canceled again for this one, but I say 1 year. And I'll tell you why. This is completely unacceptable. And if we have to put in a code of conduct that you should not drop it down low and pop it at your graduation, that is a new low for us. I do not give any excuse to the pandemic. I had 2 kids that had to go through online school, but it comes back to the home training. And the fact that not only her mother, but most people are saying, oh, you deserve it, go ahead and celebrate. If you heard her, she said the only people who had a problem with it were the school administrators. Well, I'm sorry, sweetheart, you are representing the school. How many times have we seen it? Police officer in uniform or military, when you are representing a certain brand, you can't do certain things when you're wearing that uniform. So if you don't know how to act, you don't have to go to that graduation. If you want to turn your celebration into some type of strip club event, then you do that privately, but you do not force everybody to watch your foolishness. So yes, I say it needs to be a year, and other people will look at that and say, wow, man, that was kind of harsh. But you know what? All of us who work in corporate, who have had to take some type of ridiculous HR training or some type of, this is crazy, who would ever do this? It's because it happened. And now all of us have to pay the price for it. So I say, yes, she loses her diploma. If you want to graduate from this school, come back next year and act like you have some sense. Or you can take these credits to another school and transfer them and get your diploma over there, but you're not going to get it here. And the reason why I'm coming down so hard, it's not like she is contrite. She has not seen this footage and said, man, yeah, that was a bit much. I'm kind of embarrassed. I got a little ahead of myself. She has doubled down. I told y'all what I was going to do. Well, they told you what they were going to do. So now everybody won, right? You did what you wanted to, and here is the consequence. And that's what it's going to have to come to. It has to be a consequence. Like Ms. Crimson said, we're sending these kids out into the world with no thought of, you know what? I may not get away with this. So life is going to hit them hard. And I think it starts right here, right now. And she can figure out the next time she or somebody else wants to do something foolish, am I really going to want to have to deal with the consequence of this? But life is going to have to teach them. I think too many of them are too far gone, and it's unfortunate, but I say make an example out of her.
Yeah, the reinforcement and what's being pushed. I'm worried about the legal ramifications of this stuff, just because I know in my head there should be a consequence. Outside of an individual school coming up with a new code of conduct that all students and their parents and guardians have to sign, at some level, they're eventually, of course, going to have to give it well prior to a year, more than likely. So at that point, I'm like, if the child signs it, the parent signs it, and the kid does what they want to do anyway, I think that's kind of open and shut. But anything prior to that, I feel like all that's going to end up happening is the school's going to end up giving it anyway. May even, have to deal with some legal issues as a consequence. But I agree with you, Maggie, that not doing anything is definitely contributing to how this is looking like it's starting to worsen. Crimson, you about to hop in?
I agree that there probably should be some sort of consequence just to reinforce that certain behavior is not going to be acceptable going forward. Now, as to how far that goes or what that may be, I don't know yet. I think I disagree with Sister Maggie about withholding it for a year, because if we think about a job, if I have to be let go of my job and I have a word with my supervisor, they get to hold my check for a year because they don't like it. Well, they got to do it.
I get
like,
you.
They got to give me my check just because you don't like me. And on my last day after I got fired or let go or I quit, and the supervisor, I don't like that supervisor, I call that supervisor a name. You a do that supervisor get to go in the system and say, we withhold your last check for a year because you shouldn't have said that to me. That was uncouth. What she did was uncouth, not illegal. So should there be some ramifications? Yeah, I agree with that. I agree, some type of consequence somewhere, because it has to be known that this type of foolishness, we're not going to allow it.
and we're not gonna not do anything because it'll be worse each time. They're gonna try to outdo each other every graduation or every, you know what I'm saying, whatever. Somebody gonna try to outdo the last time that it went viral and this and that, and then you just make a mockery out of the entire ceremony. You know what I'm saying? At that point, you probably do just cancel the whole thing. Like, we're not having no graduation because y'all don't know how to act, which that might be on the table. But I don't know about, and because from what some of the comments are saying, that she ended up they did go ahead and give her diploma later. So, okay, that's fine or whatever. But I don't know what those ramifications or consequences actually look like. Although I agree that there should be either some stricter rules, because, and I don't know, and I'll say this in land, I don't know that there aren't any rules, because when back in the Jurassic period, when I graduated from high school, they told us no clapping, no sound, nothing. It was my graduation was a funeral. Nobody said nothing. It was so unmemorable. I don't even remember walking across that stage. I was trying to get up out of there because it was so nothing. Now he fell out.
Yeah, look at him laying there. Just laying there. I think part of the reason why we're seeing so many of these clips everywhere is because of the cell phones. It's because of the cell phones. It's because of these devices that the likelihood of this getting put on social media is exponentially higher. So if I can record and take pictures of you all the way up leading to the ceremony, and then as soon as it's over, we can whip our stuff out and take phones and pictures with you and all your friends and everything. But the actual event itself can only be recorded the school decides how they want to do the footage. The school could even pre-record it and then put it out, or go back in and edit out any parts of people doing stupid, crazy stuff. That might shut down a lot of the stuff where you do something dumb, you can't get your diploma for a few months, and it's not even going viral. That was just stupid.
Yep.
I don't know, but but a lot of shows, Kevin Hart, I've been to Kevin Hart shows, other comedian shows. You put your phone and devices inside of a sack. They made you go through a metal detector, and then you could enter the premises. And then when you came back out, you got your bag unlocked, and you got to take your devices out. That may actually be something. If I was a principal, I think that if I was a school administrator, I would actually throw that idea out there. I don't know. What do y'all think?
Yeah. No, I actually, that's interesting you said that, because 2 years ago, I took a contract with Yonder. Yonder is the company. And actually, I think the first time I used it was when and this is how I got the job, was I flew to San Francisco to the Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock stand-up. And that was the first time. And then I contacted someone at Yonder, and then I started doing it here in the DC, Virginia, Maryland area, Norfolk area. I started going to like all of the Kevin Hart shows, all of the shows where, I was that Yonder representative. So yeah, I'm very familiar with that. That's actually would be a really good idea.
I don't know. Again, it's an unfortunate one. I think there's a real element of people being able to have that memory, being able to have that, even having it in their device. But depending on the school and the class and the track record, I think if people want to read, and again, this is the greater. We're talking about the micro issue. Crimson, you kind of alluded to some of the background. I think there's a macro issue as well. Black people around the world religiously talk about not liking how their image is as a group and how they're viewed as individuals. But then when they see individual people that look like us doing, saying, and behaving in ways that they know doesn't make them or us look good, most people act like the mom or the gentleman whose comment I just shared. It's not that big a deal. It's not an issue. It doesn't affect anyone. 500,000 Black women lost their jobs in the last year. And we can just assume it's just because everybody that wanted to let these women go, it was just because of the hue of their skin. But I think that there's a social component of seeing so many things on social media in every environment, boats, Dubai, graduation, damn funerals, where again, I know what's happening. This isn't the majority of us. I don't even think it's close to the majority of us. When each video we just watched, there was a segment of somebody doing something and then hundreds of people around them just watching. That's what I think is real life. But the problem is we're at a point in place where I don't know what to make of what are the long-term consequences of seeing this type of stuff, it being shown, being done, and how our image is being framed domestically and globally, especially outside of our group. If you think you only gonna deal with Black people, only the people in your area, so you don't got to care about what other people think, I guess that's fine. But for the rest of us who are looking at a more macro lens, what are the potential consequences of parents not checking this, schools not addressing this, students just being able to do this? What's the long-term consequences of maybe, if any at all, that y'all think this might be in terms of how it's continuing to shape how we as individuals and as a group is being seen? Anybody can jump in.
I think, first of all, our image collectively is very important. Okay. And it has been bad. I'm going to say this, and this might be an unpopular opinion. Our image has been bad when we on our best behavior. Our image as Black Americans is bad on our best behavior. When we was in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, we weren't doing nothing, and it was still bad. We were still regarded as dirty or uncouth or uncivilized or whatever. And we was walking around in proper dresses and suits. We was probably some of the most civil, mannerable people that you would ever meet as a group. So that's number one. And I'll say this. I do think it's a minority, because like you pointed out, Mr. Jeff, even in these clips where we're highlighting the foolishness that's going on, everybody's not joining in. It's not even half. It's not even close.
Not even close.
Right? It's a couple of people here and there that basically acting a fool at these events. The global impact is and I believe will continue to be negative, even when we as a group address ourselves. And the reason why is because it would require for us to 100% get rid of everything negative. Nobody would be able to do nothing negative at no time, and you can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't. We're just seen a certain way, right? Because I'll give you an example. In the late 90s and early 2000s, Girls Gone Wild was who?
White girls.
Do they have a bad public image?
Not really. I mean, outside of some people have issues with American women, but in general, no, white women do not.
Exactly. Because they are seen as individuals, and we are not. That's one of the issues. We are not individuals. We one big Negro. That's what we are.
One big Negro. Wow. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. What about you, Anita, and Maggie?
I wanted us to address the educational requirements. So you all are aware that here recently we had a Philadelphia high school student, and he had a set of videos that went viral where he asked students to read a sentence off of a 3x5 card. And a lot of those students couldn't read. So I guess my question is this the education that we are celebrating at graduation? That you have juniors and seniors who are reading at a second and third grade reading level. And then we found out, because the school, of course, got upset because it was bad PR for the school. We found out that they wanted to reprimand him. They wanted to reprimand him in some way. And they reported that their literacy rate was 46%. And there were people saying, okay, but that's not good. That means over half of the kids can't read. like what?
Yeah.
So is this the diploma that we're celebrating?
You know what, Anita? You brought this up. Hold on,
Philadelphia student is facing expulsion for this video.
Yeah, end this score for me.
She wore a suit, clothes that were. Who's this for?
She wore a sahalat of clothes that were extra girly, whatever, bro, but somewhat Gucci.
She wore a. Oh, baby. She wore a silhouette of clothes that were. Bitch, I don't know that word. I don't even know how to read. I don't know what.
Now, I'm sorry, but should he be the one getting in trouble? Or should the teachers for failing their students? So, a Philadelphia.
So, Anita, you're not wrong. I think this is a little bit deeper than just class or decorum and difference of culture. It is a difference of culture. I think the readiness and the preparedness of, or the lack of ability to prepare these kids is coming from adults that don't have the same priority as the ladies I see on the screen for themselves or their kids. Y'all said it earlier, there was a certain expectation of how you were to conduct yourself, the type of grade you were supposed to bring home, you know, what type of boy you were supposed to bring home if you even did. Like, there were certain expectations that I'm realizing now are just not there anymore. And I think the reason why it's been so difficult for a lot of us who, and again, Crimson, you're right. No one's 100% is never going to happen, but it does look and sound like a slow sinking ship. It doesn't, when you look at the stats of adults in the country that also can't make it through those index cards, this makes sense. This makes sense because if they're not prioritizing education, what are they allowing to be the priority? Prom. Going all out on prom, not on the tutor. Huh? Not on the tutor. We ain't spending all this money on the tutor to make sure if our child gets put in front of I got a 1-year-old right now, who's starting to learn her numbers, starting to learn her. If I do nothing else in this life, this child better learn how to read. Because what I've learned and realized now is they will put the money and they'll put the effort into the celebration and into the prom and not into the education. So there are parents, men and women, fathers and mothers, who are prioritizing making sure their child looks great, but intellectually, they're not putting the same investment in. I'm not even going crazy with the parents who you see the background when they're spending $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 on these extravaganzas, but then you look in the background and they're in a really big, nice homes and communities because they may have the wiggle room. I might disagree with it personally. I think it may be a little over the top, but they financially are in a place where they can afford to maybe do that, and it's not the end of the world. You got people in the hood doing the same thing.
Yep.
Trying to go band for band with people whose homes are $500K and up, and you in the hood, and you dropping $20K for you is not $20K for them. Okay, they make that back that month. They'll make that back in 2 months. It'll take you half the year, and you better not be eating anything leading up to that year either. They're spending the money on suits and dresses. They're putting the energy into celebrations. And neither of those are being prioritized into the education component. And parents don't care. Parents don't care.
But think about it like this, Jeff.
Mhm.
In the last, I'm going to say 10 years now, it could be longer, but here's what I've noticed. And it could be longer. I could be wrong. But in the last 10 years, I've noticed a shift where people in general, not black, not white, not men, not women, people, they are focused on today.
Yeah.
Everything is about now. It's not about the future. It's not about 10 or 20 or 30 years from now. It's about today. I want to feel good now. I want to look good now. And to me, this is like the first time in our history where we are so focused on now. Like boomers, for sure, were all about, you know, okay, we need to save for the future, our future generations. We need to buy a home. We need to invest, you know. But it's like in the last 10 years or so, I have noticed this, that when I talk to people about their future, they are not interested. They're like, I want this now. I want to buy this now. I want to look like this now. And that's really sad because just like Chris Rock said in his stand-up, he says, I know a lot of y'all believe that, you know, oh, I could get hit by a bus tomorrow. He said, for most of us, that ain't going to happen. He said, life is going to be long. Okay. It's not a live for today. You're going to live until you're 80. And if you keep, you know, living for today, your future, I mean, what kind of future are you going to have?
I'm gonna throw out another thing that I think will actually help this a little bit. For the black men and women who is like, this is a bit much, it's going too far. I don't like this. I'm not a fan of this. Well, y'all got to start paying more attention to who it is your kids are dating and bringing home. I'm gonna tell you this: all these kids and students that's going viral, they should be happy that I don't have a son or daughter that's this age as well. Because the first thing I'm going to do, what's this person's name? I'm going to YouTube. I'm going to Instagram. I'm going to social media. And I'm now doing the thing that most parents wouldn't think to do. I'm going to see if if the boy or girl that they're bringing home is going to be an embarrassment to this family. In the past, we used to have to think about doing criminal background checks. Now we got to do social media name checks to see, because again, it's not just the individual young lady or the individual young guy. It's the environment that they're coming from. What's the things that's being instilled? I didn't even show the clips of the prom students with the guns in the back, and I'm like, the boy and the girl together, and I'm like, I've seen it. I've seen the family photos of the white family with all of them holding guns, and now I'm seeing us doing the same, and I'm like, okay, I'm realizing now if I don't have. And I'm a gun owner, by the way, but I don't want that. I don't want to see that at prom. So for me, I'm like, all right, what I can do is try to reduce the options or likelihood for somebody like that has those values to be intertwined with my family. And the shortcut way is if they're thirsty for social media, they're thirsty for attention. Well, you're gonna see it. I'm gonna see if you can find my attention, and if it's up and it's available, and you're going viral for the wrong reasons, not my family. That's it. And again, Anita, you didn't just, it wasn't just about the kids. It's this.
Ben Carey tried to ambush the extortion scheme.
What does that mean?
I don't even know. I can't say that. Tried to ambush the extortion scheme.
What does that mean?
I don't know. The university student procured an off-campus accommodation via the platform Unishack. Unishack does that?
So my initial issue is there's already starting to be a noticeable cultural divide on a lot of different issues, including culture, class, ethics, behavior, etc. It's going to sound bad, but if you don't have a learning disability, if you don't have dyslexia, and you reaching these big old ages and you haven't figured out a way to prioritize this not happening as an individual, especially when you're becoming an adult, some of these people are not going to be given the opportunity to procreate. That's what I'm saying. So they're going to be removed from dating pools. They're going to be removed from job opportunities, obviously. There's going to be more stratification 10 years from now than the last 20 years of what we've been seeing on social media. I promise you. Because when you start to realize and see like, oh, your mother acts this way, you act that way, and you're coming from this environment, our blacklist is not enough for us to have anything else in common. That might actually be it. And I think when we're seeing this on the screen and what we're watching, I think we're going to start to see more and more of a splinter effect. Maggie, Crimson, and then Anita, and we can kind of wrap things up.
I agree. I think there's going to be a lagging indicator. I agree with Miss Anita. You know, the delayed gratification is how we were raised. You know, as the resident immigrant on the panel, I saw my parents work their way through school, working menial jobs. So I knew you weren't going to get that success instantly. But like Miss Anita said, people want it right now and they're not willing to invest. I agree with you. Kevin Samuels used to talk about our ethnic image, and that is our responsibility. Miss Crimson said, and I don't disagree, when we live in a mainstream culture, we will never be looked at as the same. However, I think we still can represent ourselves well, even if when compared to mainstream, they think less of us, we can think more highly of ourselves. You know, think about the Harlem Renaissance or any of the times when, you know, we were families and respectable and, you know, treated each other with dignity. Yes, from the outside in, they thought we were less than, but I don't know any of us who can stand by this foolishness and give it a pass. That's not what we're doing on this panel. And I agree with you, Mr. Jeff. What's going to happen, because you asked, how is this going to impact us? All of us are going to have to pay the price for this. It is happening right now. Didn't we see, wasn't it in the Houston rodeo when restaurants now were requiring you to prepay before you can come sit down? I've never dined and dashed, but isn't that a requirement now for all of us? If we want to be in certain establishments, we have to now be judged more harshly. It's also happening in the dating space. You know, I may say, you know, I'm a good girl, I would never do you wrong, but a man has the right to vet me the way he wants to vet me until he is sure that I'm a good candidate. So all of us are going to pay the price from this collective. But what we can do is speak up like we're doing now and saying, that is not okay. That does not represent me. You know, I was thinking about it. I've been looking at the comments and, you know, there's so many comments. And I feel very strongly about men assuming their place in the masculine role. Whether you like her music or not, think about Beyonce and her oldest daughter, who has toured with her, I think, 1 or 2 times.
Yeah.
We have never seen, what is it, Blue Ivy? We have never seen her drop down and pop it like that girl did at her graduation. There may be scantily clad dancers all around. You've never seen Blue Ivy with all of her parts hanging out, because who is right there when she comes home? Whether you like the music or not, Jay-Z is making it clear, not my child. And that's how we were raised. But as long as we have this vacuum of anybody can do whatever they want, and, you know, everything is up for, you know, my truth and I feel, I agree with you. It's just going to get worse before it gets better. But I think the way it gets better, a couple of things, like you said, as far as the cell phones, imagine if cell phones were not allowed. A lot of that would go away because people are doing it for that viral moment. People are so attention seeking. We can't just celebrate that you are, you know, graduating after 12 years or however many years of school and you've had this accomplishment. That's not enough. For some people, that will never be enough. They got to do all this foolishness to make sure you remember me. I've been to, I think it was the Kevin Hart comedy show where they took our phones. I also have a Marine in the family. And I remember when we went to the boot camp graduation, here's another option. They told the parents, act up and your kid will not be coming home with you. He will not graduate from boot camp if you don't act right. So that could be an option because we know our family members. We know the ones that are going to act crazy. I don't think that people were surprised that, there goes my aunt again doing the backflips, because everywhere you go, there you are. I agree with you.
You just heard what you said. That's what goes my aunt to get doing backflips.
Exactly. People know who the troublemakers are in their family. So sometimes everybody can't come. Everybody can't go because you don't know how to conduct yourself. And if you thought twice that, maybe my foolishness, maybe my outburst is going to cost my child that 1 month or 3 months or 1 year of not getting their diploma, maybe you would ask yourself, is it worth it? But yeah, I definitely agree. Something has to be done and we are all going to pay the price for it. And I think we already are.
Yeah, and Anton, I appreciate you for the comment. My favorite show on YouTube, Love from London. What's going on? Shout out to our London folks and everybody around the world outside of the US that's currently watching and supporting. If you guys are not subscribers of any of our respective channels or platforms, please make sure you do. And then we have The Cooketh. Thank you for the $5. Sending love from over here in South Central PA. What's going on, PA? OG, thank you for the $19.99. Good evening to the panel support for the platform. Who else we got? Tristan Smith again. Yeah, at this point, every high school is going to have a code of conduct because of the behavior of a few. Break it and don't see your diploma for a year might be a realistic consequence we may see. Yeah, I don't know what the consequence is, but I do know what they're currently doing is not working. It's not working. It's actually worsening. And I'm in agreement. Again, I don't know what the time frame should be. I don't know that any of us can just blanketly say it should be this. But it's very clear that if the schools don't step up, because again, if the parents were going to do something about it, this wouldn't be an issue. The parents are not doing anything about it. And this is why it's turning into the parents are now jumping out there participating in this. We had the brother picking up the ones. I didn't play that completely, but the brother picking up the ones. Slim again, doesn't this outline the lack of group esteem? Why is group esteem only rebuffed when it's negative, i.e. the mad black woman? Also, with our grandma wasn't having it, grandmoms now aren't those of the past. Dr. AJC, thank you for the $5. The prom is the peak, and they put so much into prom because statistically there won't be a wedding. Man, yeah, I mean, obviously, what was his name that spoke at the beginning? The commentator, the sports commentator, I forget his name, the one who spoke at the very beginning about prom and graduation may be the peak and highlight, the greatest highlight of some of their lives. And maybe that could be somewhat of a contributing factor, although I think it's really more so about what Anita was saying. It's really just about in the moment. I just want to celebrate, do what I want to do. And I'm really not thinking about any of the other potential future consequences as a result. Slim again, $5. Twerking isn't culture, it's degeneracy. The US economy needs slave labor to work. How do we get our veg? I don't know. How about prison industrial complex? Well, I'm gonna say this, man. Regardless of how we behave or how we show up, even when people point to other examples of other groups doing it in different contexts, I think what's almost more important is the context of when it is that people are doing this stuff. It's the context. That's what makes this acceptable, not acceptable, appropriate, not appropriate. It's the context. When and where are they doing it? And when they're doing splits on stage, you can do it in the club, you can do it at certain venues, and it's seen as more acceptable. Music video, concert, perhaps, depending on the concert. This ain't it. But when they got parents that's condoning it, we have a group of Black people who don't know that context matters. That them showing up as their authentic selves is sufficient for them to be apparently accepted. And that there is no context to cause them to, I guess, police their cultural expression in their minds. They can do it anywhere, anytime, any venue, any place. They should be allowed to, apparently. At least that's how some people are starting to view it. And then lastly, Brandon, again, thank you for the $6.99. Jamaican blooded Canadian. I grew up fighting the Black American stereotype. I think we need to change for us The world already chose our reputation. Yeah, I agree. And Maggie, you kind of alluded to it too. It's one thing to know. It's one thing to know that the world will always have their different views. The outside groups will have their different views, but I do think that there's ways when you can contribute to the narrative, you can contribute to the stereotype, you can contribute to it, and you could even confirm things that people are thinking that's the worst. And I think that, you know, when we as individuals get the opportunities that we do and hold on and maintain those opportunities outside of the Black community, that's a reflection of us not being the stereotype. But you have to get the opportunity. You have to get the opportunity. So I'm going to give a little example of what this real world consequence looks like. When I was working at my last place of employment as a director, clinical director, I had to onboard staff, therapists, secretaries, you know, different people or whatever. And they were mostly women, and they were mostly Black. And when I started to get a hint, and there would be 2 or 3 of us looking at these resumes together and making judgment calls in real time, bring that person in, call that person back. Jeff, you want to interview this person? Once we've gotten graduates from certain institutions where they come in for an interview and they bomb the interview poorly because of unprofessionalism, just a bunch of issues with their professionalism, how they're even giving them opportunities, and they just are late, unprofessional, crossing lines and boundaries, just not handling any form of correct. Like, once we've seen that happen 2 or 3 times to a certain school or institution, like an HBCU or certain type of HBCU, what do you think is likely to happen when it comes to future resumes? If y'all complained about, well, Black Africans and Black people from the UK or from this country is taking US Black spots or whatever, I'm gonna keep it frank. Opportunities are going to lessen as a consequence of this. I promise you, opportunities are going to lessen. And if you think that they're not going to start to be colleges that have accepted some students, and when they find out a student's going viral, that's an incoming student that we do not want to be, how do you think the school officials feel about seeing a student twerk on stage and say, well, I'm going to Georgia, so-and-so right in 6 months? Y'all don't think that there's not going to be schools that's going to start to say, you know what? Going viral for the wrong reasons, reneged. Somebody else spot that wants a little bit more, is a little bit more serious coming in. The days of thinking that we can just think about ourselves and that there's not going to be any other consequences, I'm just saying, y'all gotta be careful. And just because you're like, well, it's not going to affect me and it's not going to affect my household, it doesn't mean it's not going to affect the other people who's still out here trying to make it. I promise you. And the differences with me is I'm a Black brother that was intentionally trying to put in place Black people in the hood in positions of employment. You take me out and put somebody in who doesn't have that commitment. Now they're not even, or that name, oh, no. Next. They'll go to immigrants, they'll go to white folks, they'll go to other groups. I'm telling you, it's a little bit more nuanced than just, we don't like the celebration. They don't like a lot of this ish. They don't like it. And again, unless you go into business for yourself, you're gonna have to factor in how people see you at some point. That's just the reality of it. So ladies, last words. Why don't each of y'all just kind of say what you think, what do you hope for, and what is it you think we could do different? Let's do Maggie, Crimson, and then Anita.
Well, I'll just say this, since I think I've beaten the graduation, I'll give my closing thoughts on the prom. And for me, prom was supposed to be a coming of age, a celebration. It was supposed to be that one opportunity where you got that opportunity to, put on something nice and go have a semi-formal event. Growing up in a small town, I think our prom was at the Botanical Gardens. We didn't have money, so one of my aunts sewed my dress. It was, you had your little beater car, and now the spectacle that it has become, for what reason? Like the commentator was said, these people, it's not like they're making a lifelong commitment. This is just a moment in time, and the money that's being spent, to your point, Jeff, it's beyond rivaling weddings. And what for? And I hate to say it, but I will say it. The reason why I think some are making this wasteful spend is because this is something, I'll speak as a woman, that women can control. We can have our princess moment and nobody has to tell me, what to do. When you are a bride, that means a man that you admire and respect has vetted you, has chosen you, has committed himself to you, and now the community in front of God and these witnesses in your community, however you celebrate, are coming together. And it's not just about you, it's about the family and the legacy that is continuing. And that is why marriage celebrations were a moment, but that required that you got on a man's program. That required that you waited for him to say, you know what, I choose you above all others. That required you actually having to bring something to the table, which is the family unit that he wants to create. So now just having these, it's like the baby showers and these ridiculous things. It's just, again, back to the selfishness. It's about me. It's what I want to do. And I'm going to be, queen for a day, come heck or high water. And I agree. I think we are so short-sighted, and this is not going to end well, because you're going to look back at that, and to what end? You spent all this money that you didn't have to get dressed up to go to prom, and at the end of the day, can you even read?
Man, my other critics, Tokyo, thank you for this comment. They are making passport bros look like geniuses. Again, if it's gonna sound bad, but if I had a son, again, I have a black wife, I got a black daughter now, but if I had a son, based on the region, based on the school, and based on the family, it's not off the table. It's not off the table. Because at the end of the day, it's not uncommon now. It is normalized, and shame is seen as a sin in this society. So it gets easier for a lot of guys and families to just start with somebody that knows better than to think, all right, I'm gonna have to bring you up the code and teach you, oh yeah, so we don't do splits in public. And also, I don't want my daughter doing that. And that's not gonna be the baseline. It's not, especially not for men that got something going for themselves. It's not the baseline. If they're engaging in that, it is not for serious reasons. Personally. Anita, go ahead. Crimson, go ahead, and then Anita could close us out.
I'd like to clarify something, because I don't ever want my position to be unclear. The collective reputation that Black Americans have is going to be negative. But that should not suggest that I don't think that we should address our own issues. Mm-hmm. Not because the world will think of us any better. I could care less about that. That's going to be what it's going to be. But my whole entire channel, my content, and one of my main overarching points is to leave degeneracies and things of that nature, because we suffer for them. We suffer. Our families suffer. The reason we're having this conversation is because the kids that we're talking about, and they are children, only at graduation or prom may have just come out of being a minor. Everything that happened before that count. Everything. All of their rearing. Everything that happened in them environments and households. They did not become who they were
by magic, nor overnight. Okay.
Yeah.
But my whole overarching point of my content has always been to embrace what is righteous, what is good, what is fruitful for its own sake. I tell women all the time to be the best women they can be, whether a man ever choose them or not. You may never get chosen. You might be left in the wind as a good woman. And that's a hard pill to swallow, but you might. But be good because it is best for you to be good.
Yeah.
It is best for our culture and people to correct ourselves. It is best for us. It is best for us to reestablish healthy families and thus healthy communities, raise healthy children, so forth and so on. Not because some other group is going to see us one way or another. That it may change, it may not. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant to the fact that whatever we got going on negatively needs to be addressed and changed by us. Our values need to be reevaluated and put into place properly for us. So I don't never want that to be misconstrued just because I think that the external viewpoint of us may remain negative no matter what we do. I'm not saying that to use it as an excuse to continue on with foolishness just because somebody else is going to say this, that, and a third, or to think a certain thing about us. To the prom point and the educational point. Earlier, you made a point about your children, Mr. Jeff, and then they're gonna read. Yeah. I did the same thing with my baby girl. She my sister, but I raised her, so it's the same thing. She, I think, was like in kindergarten or something. And I asked her, I said, "Can you read?" And she just hunched her shoulder. I said, "Oh, not nobody in my house. We may be poor, but we smart in this house. We're smart. So you are going to read." And I grabbed some children's books and I taught her how to read. We're going to put our finger under the word and we're going to read until you figure it out. And she did, wasn't no problem. I didn't wait to see what the school was going to do, because we have to understand that the way in which society is going, and this is a little bit off topic, so I'm not going to stay here, but the way in which society is headed, it don't require the youth to think critically or read or write. It don't require it. We were required to do that. The youth today are not even required to think. They got ChatGPT doing everything. They got AI doing everything. They don't have to read. They don't have who writes on a piece of paper anymore. They don't do that. The jobs that they're looking forward to don't even need them to do nothing but click a button and press a button. And, you know what I'm saying? So they've dumbed them. Anytime you got in school not teaching them normal math, but you teaching them, what is it, core, what they call it, core? Something core.
Yeah. Common Core. Yep.
That's crazy. But the reason that they introduced Common Core is because that's how algorithms work. Okay, that's why. It's confusing, but they did it that way for a reason. So anyway, that's a whole different conversation and we're trying to end it off, not start another conversation. But that's pretty much my overarching point. Of course, we have to address what we're doing, but for our benefit, purely.
I appreciate that. And Anita, you can have the last word. And who was it? And Slim says, employers already view and monitor social media. If something happens on personal time that disgraces the company, they're fired. And 44 Roddy says for government clearances, you can't have anything crazy going on in your background. This is the digital footprint of doing things crazy in your background. So, you know, I hope that people actually, and especially those who maybe you've been out of school for years, but you do have a younger person, a child, a nephew, a niece or something, they're not thinking about this, you better be. Because again, you don't have to be concerned about it, but I promise you, everybody is not going to be able to work at an HBCU and work for a Black-owned company. I'm telling you that right now. A whole lot of us are going to have to go out there, and 10, 20 years from now, there's going to be pretty normal digital searches. That just going off of a background check is not going to be it. I'm telling you now that they're going to start to factor in more and more what is your social media presence as well. Whether it's on your page or your name just floating around. Anita, if you got a quick word to kind of wrap us up and close us out.
I just want to speak on the prom situation. And I guess my biggest concern about that is just the Black wealth or the lack of it. And it's things like this that continue to hold us back as a community, that we want to look rich without being rich. You know, I tell people all the time, I purposefully do not have a high-end car. My most expensive asset is my home and the neighborhood that it is in. Outside of that, I don't own a designer bag. I don't have a high-end car. I don't want to look rich. I tell people that all the time. You know, I have money, but I don't want to look like it. I am leaving a legacy for my children and their children, just as my parents are setting up to leave me something. So that's my biggest problem with the prom thing is like, where is the money coming from? And why are we spending it on this one night? You're willing to spend $20,000 on one night. That is insanity to me. So I will never wrap my head around that, even if I had it. Like, to me, again, I am future focused. I am forward thinking. I'm always thinking about my children and their children. So I can't even understand. I didn't even have a wedding. Because I told my then fiance, nah, scratch that. Okay, we're going to take that money and purchase a home and then purchase another home. Like, I ain't feeding them people. I don't care what them people think. Like, I've always been this way. So my mind I can't even compute what's happening. I don't understand it. So that's my thought.
I appreciate it. And shout out to everybody who's watched and tuned in from any of our respective channels or platforms. Everybody that's currently watching, just ask that y'all send it to at least 1, 2, or even 3 people. Make sure y'all hype up these videos when y'all see it, and that y'all become subscribers and or members of our respective channels. And Bria, inside for Bria, she said something that I thought was that background checks don't reveal character. Social media does. And I think that that's one of the big takeaways that I'm going to kind of reflect on this is maybe you aren't interested in what people outside of the Black community or whatever we mean by that means, what they think. Maybe you really aren't interested in that. I'm telling you that there's people that look just like you who also do care. And they are going to judge whether or not a man or woman or boy or girl is good enough for their son or daughter. They are. And they are going to start to factor in these types of things. And I promise you, no man who has actual respect for himself and his family is going to be okay with seeing that his future daughter-in-law has this everywhere. I promise you. I promise you. So I'm telling y'all right now, whether you factor in society at large, the Black community, or just your future dating prospects, it's time for us as individuals to really pour into those that we're responsible for and making sure that we try our best to instill certain values in them to prevent them. Again, it's their choice at the end of the day, but trying to prevent them from a likelihood of ending up in a scenario where they're moving more so off of emotion and off of instant gratification and not thinking about their futures. So ladies, thank y'all for this. This was a very interesting conversation. I'm actually going to play it back when I get the chance. So guys, everybody watching, have a good evening. We'll see y'all on the other side and take care. Peace.